What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about contracts. Obviously, we're getting to the back end of the season, and with the recent re-signing of Jackson Mead and Xavier Walsh, I thought it'd be a good time to dive into who's coming out of contract at the end of the year and talk about some of the key players that would be interesting to see what decisions are made by the club, and also some of the rookies and everything like that are also at the end of the season coming out of contract. So I've got a list, got the players here who are remaining under no contract for the 2025 season so far, and I'm going to go through it and see who's going to stay, who's going to go, and who's still a bit up in the air. So make a few predictions and see what I think and what you think should happen with these players. So let's get straight into it and talk about the contracts of players for 2025. Firstly, I do just want to start the video by saying congratulations to Jackson Mead and Xavier Walsh for getting contract extensions. Jackson Mead, very well deserved, has been a key component of the 2024 season and has definitely improved his game. He's averaged 15 disposals for the year, but he's had a few standout games in the midst of playing every single game this year. And the best part about his 15 disposals that he does average, 12 of them are effective, which means his disposal efficiency is, really impressive when he does get the footy. So if we can find a little bit more of the footy, he's definitely going to be a key component to our campaign for 2024 for the remaining period anyway. But just super proud. I remember talking to his dad just earlier last year, and there was things about him and the concerns of not playing enough footy, and now that he's finally got the opportunity, I'm very, very happy for him and very impressed. So well done to Jackson Mead. And Xavier Walsh has shown a lot of potential as a swingman back and forth. Obviously was in the rookie draft as well, so a lot has come from him this season so far in the Maggies, and I look forward to seeing what he can produce going forward over the next couple of years with his extension as well, which is great to see, rewarding players from the rookie draft. We've had some great success over the years with rookie drafts and players coming from there. Dan Houston is the most notable one recently as well. So congratulations to both of those. We shall get into the list of players remaining under no contract, going forward into 2025. I'll list them off for you. So Trent McKenzie, Tom McCullum, Thomas Scully, Quinton Narkle, Lockie Jones, Kyle Marshall, Jeremy Finlayson, Francis Evans, Charlie Dixon, and Travis Boak. Now, these players don't have a contract or aren't even in contract talks, some of them, for the remainder of, for their careers to continue after this year. I'll start with a couple of key ones that I think will not be renewed, and these are just my opinions. A lot of those starting with T as well, which is quite interesting. But Tom McCullum and Trent McKenzie for me, Tom McCullum was an end of first round, early second round draft pick just a couple of years ago, has not been able to progress the way I think the club would have liked. And I think with positional wise and everything that's going with players transitioning into different positions, and our halfbacks and our midfielders stocked at the moment, I think he's just never really found a way through. And the Magpies haven't been in great condition. There's a lot of question marks surrounding the Magpies as well going forward into the future. And I don't see him getting a contract. Be one unfortunate one of those that does 2 years in the system and just doesn't get to go forward. But I could be wrong on that one, but I just don't see a perseverance with that going forward. Trent McKenzie is the other one for me. Now, with Tom Cleary being under contract for 2025, for me, I don't see a reason why he'll be furthering his career at Port Adelaide. Now, that's not to say that he won't. I just think with his injuries that is occurring, he's over the age of 31 now, and had a good season in 2023, but just wasn't able to cut it. And with Radigalia, Zerk Thatcher, Aaliyah, Tom Cleary, Kyle Marshall, who I'll get to in a second, these players are almost pretty much ahead of him, and with injuries and age a factor, I don't see him getting a contract, which will be unfortunate. But he'll be one of those forced retirees that I think the conversations would have been continued throughout the year. And the fact is, I don't see him getting one for next year. And it's unfortunate. The Cannon will be retired, which it's a shame. But he could turn his season around. For 7 games to go and a well-settled backline for Port, I don't see him getting one going forward. The question marks for me are Quinton Narkle, Kyle Marshall, Francis Evans, and Charlie Dixon. Now, Quinton Narkle's rise since coming into the side mid-season has definitely impacted him in a way where he could actually get a contract for next year, a 1-year deal. I don't think it would be too harmful to do that. The question marks remain around who we target as a trade option if we go to the trade table this year. We've been heavily prominent in those periods of time over the last couple of years, but I don't see us being heavily active. I know we're linked with Ben Ainsworth from the Suns, which could be pushing Narkle down the pecking order again. Obviously, Rioli is ahead of him in terms of that small forward factor. You've got Jed McEntee, who's just signed an extension. The other one, obviously, in the question mark phase is Francis Evans. And it could come down to Evans versus Narkle because fully fit, I don't mind Narkle's sparkle, if you know what I mean. Francis Evans has had multiple options, and I think a lot of fans and a lot of people are living off of that showdown performance a couple of years or just last year. I know he can prove that. He's had games where he's played full games and started. He's also had games where he started as sub and come on. And I don't know. I don't think he has that X factor that we're looking for, or hasn't shown anything since that showdown. I know people say he hasn't had enough opportunity. He's in and out of the side. He's starting as a sub. That's where he's at the moment. And I don't want this to become a selection type situation where we go, oh, well, namesake Francis Evans comes back in, gets dropped at the Maggies, plays one game, comes back in. I like that we've given opportunities to the players, like Logan Evans comes in and keeps his spot. Will Lorenz got an opportunity, although a very short one. There's a couple of others as well. I think they're going to get opportunities, no doubt, at some stage. And the Magpies have found a little bit for them of late, so I don't see... It's going to be one of those two. They get a contract for me. I'll probably lean towards Narkle, in my honest opinion. I think he has a little bit more to offer in that spec, but you could throw reasons for both, and I just think the way their performance has been, hell, they might both not get a contract. We might be quite stern with those two, but for now, I would say that Narkle or Evans gets a contract. I don't think both will. Kyle Marshall most likely will get one. I think a year extension there, and our key backs, as I mentioned, like with Trent McKenzie, I think if we're going to get rid of one, I think one will still get a contract, and we need to still have that development phase for Kyle. And I still think as well, the way Xavier Walsh is working too, like it's nice to have these younger guys there, building themselves and building their presence. And I don't see an issue with Kyle at the moment. I think he gets a year extension and just continues on and hopefully improves. And you never know, might see him playing next year. Just before I get onto the players that I think will stay, and I think you can kind of gather who's going to stay for me, Charlie Dixon is the one talking point that we've all had. He's been suspended in the Sandful, out of form, had a game where he got one touch and got subbed out. I've also had performances where he kicked 4 goals against the Saints. He's been prolific in contests, and most likely gets a game against the Gold Coast Suns this week. And for me, I don't see him going on, and this is a personal choice from words that I've heard from around the place. There's actually a little factor where he wants to continue on, and I think it could probably end up being a decision for him. Unlike the Travis Boak factor, I don't see Charlie being given all the time in the world. I think a decision will probably be made by the end of the season. Well, has to be, obviously. But I think by the time we get into seeing where we stand in terms of finals, I see Dixon, either making a choice or, he's got to find his way back into the side. And there's only a limited amount of weeks to go before, potential finals. And, he's trying to be leaner. He's lost weight. I think he dropped as near as 5 kilos. So, for him to still want to improve himself, wants his body to be there and wants to, still play a part this year, I can see him continuing on. Me personally, the decision I would make is it's time, I think. It's time to retire, time to move on for Charlie. He's been a fan favourite. I hate to make that decision. But again, I think the way we're wanting to look going forward, I don't think Charlie's going to make an impact next year. So if you sit here and go, Charlie's not making a big impact in 2024, in a year he's not having, he's not got a contract for next year, why would you sign him and think he's going to make a bigger impact or any impact at all in 2025? Is he going to play a part in our next premiership potential? Is he going to play a part in having a big campaign in 2025? And the answer is simply no. And that's just I could be proven wrong. And I love to be proved wrong with Charlie. I love Charlie Dixon. Like, I think he's got such an X factor about him still, and such a presence that he brings. But at the end of the day, if he's not doing it now, he's not going to do it next year. So these are the tough choices we're going to have to make as a football club and as a football department. And I'm glad I'm not in that department to do it. So this is just my thoughts and my opinions. And the ones that are going to stay. Now, a couple of these I reckon aren't 100% staying. The one I think is definitely 100% will get a contract is Tom Scully. Been fantastic, I think, in the SNFL for the Maggies, and there's something to work with there. And he's going to be a potential to be up our, playing in our next forward line, potentially going into the next couple of years. So he definitely gets a contract. Been very impressive as Thomas Scully. Lachie Jones and Jeremy Finlayson, they're not 100%. Jeremy Finlayson in particular hasn't had a great 2024 after a fantastic 2023. There's signs of great work and building blocks of good form for him this year, but there's also been signs of laziness, and it hasn't been impressive. But I think his agility and his ability to be flexible in his position and the way he can impact a contest and impact a game, and he's well loved around the club and everything like that. I do think he gets a contract next year. I think he'll get a 2-year deal. The same with Lachie Jones. I think Lachie Jones, again, wanted the delayed contract talks to get some good form in, and seeing him come back in, has had opportunities, but also has been really bad. Hopefully he fixes those hands and doesn't drop as many marks, but I think he's undeniably a talent with his pace. I think he can, be a good player for us, and I hope he finds something. So hopefully he does moving forward, and I think he gets a contract. It's just it'll be a late decision to make one on that one. And lastly is Travis Boak. Now, I leave Trav last because he's my favourite player, and also I just think it will be the same sort of scenario as last year. They leave it to the last minute. They'll do everyone else, and they'll sit down with Trav and be like, okay, what's your decision? What are you feeling going forward? I hope it's made before the end of the season, because I feel like obviously Trav deserves a send-off for his football club. And I think the decision will be really, in the coming weeks to see whether or not we are finals bound. And I really hope that we sew up, if we're going to play finals this year, we sew up a final spot a couple of rounds before round 24. It sucks that the last game is away against Freo. He does deserve a home game to finish. If he does finish, the last home game of the year is a showdown. But then again, we could play finals, and then he could announce that it's going to be his last year, and we'll see where it takes him. So I would love to see him go forward. I think he's had enough form this year to suggest that he's going to go forward. There's been a couple of times where he has shown a bit of slowness, but also he's been prolific in some games around the contest, and he's been influential in contests as well. And I think going forward at some capacity next year, whether he plays a further 15 games, Trav could play up to 400, but at the same time, I think he has such a presence around the young group and such a leadership factor and some wisdom that I think it's enough to keep him for another year. And I hope he likes that decision, and I hope he keeps that going forward, because he's just continually making history. So let's see what he does going forward in 2025. But I would make the decision to sign him for next year, and that's biasness, and that's also because of a football factor too. A lengthy video for you on this on the channel today, but hopefully you've enjoyed the chat. Let me know in the comments below, Port fans, what you think about the contracts and what you would do with those players going forward. Obviously a lot to play out for the season 2024, but the mind does venture into what we can do to improve the list in 2025. So keep an eye out, and let's see how we go. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content to come your way. My name's Anthony, and as always, can't pair.